This is Laura Cross of Rebel Seed Films and Entertainment. I'm the writer and producer of the short action war drama Devil Dogs. And in this special podcast, I have a conversation with the film's charitable partner. Joining me as co-host for this episode is Lindsay Holt, director of Devil Dogs. And today we're talking with Pat Hairston, program manager and all-around get-it-done staff member at caninesforveterans.org.
Hey, Pat, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Well, thanks, Laura. I'm so glad I could join you and talk with you about our programs.
Yeah, we're so honored to be aligned with you. And so first off, could you share with us how Canines for Veterans came about?
Well, thank you. We're thrilled to be aligned with Devil Dogs. Canines for Veterans came about when we realized the need when our service members, men and women, were coming home from Iraq with these injuries that at one time they may not have sustained these injuries in previous wars and conflicts. The Ladies Auxiliary of the VFW of North Carolina, their president did a fundraiser for us, and her purpose of that was to see one deserving veteran receive a quality trained service dog. And that happened, the fundraising happened in 2006 to 2007. In November of 2007, the veteran received his service dog. He had lost a limb due to an IED in Iraq, and as we were leading up to that process to do his placement, our program founder, director, and president kept asking the question, how can we serve more veterans? We can certainly take applications in our regular program and serve them there. However, our wait list can be 2 to 5 years, and that's just too long for our veterans to wait. So he started talking about using a military prison where there's, excuse the pun, a captive audience, to have the military prisoners training the service dogs for our veterans. And we needed an end to a military prison. He started to meet with local congressmen and made several trips to Washington, and they all shook his hand, thanked him, and told him to vote for them at the next election, and he never got anywhere. So he went back to the president of the Ladies Auxiliary and said, I'm not getting anywhere. And her comment to him was, let me make a few phone calls. Turns out we're about an hour to an hour and a half from Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, Marine Corps Base. And Congressman Walter Jones is in that district. And his mother, Mrs. Jones, was an auxiliary member. And the president of the North Carolina Ladies Auxiliary contacted her, told us what we wanted to do, and all of a sudden we had an appointment to meet with Congressman Jones. And not only that, we had an introduction to the chief warrant officer at the brig at Camp Lejeune. Our team sat down with the CO of the brig right before Thanksgiving in 2007. And he said, give me some time. It's going to take me a little while to pull some things together. And we got a call right at the end of 2007 asking us when we could bring dogs into the brig. Well, let me tell you, we had to scramble. We had to get procedures in place. We had to make sure we had strong training protocols. We already had strong training protocols for our service dogs, but now we were taking it to a different level. We had to find dogs. We had to get supplies. We were responsible for providing all of the dogs plus all of the supplies for the dogs. And the brig would provide the housing, of course, for the prisoners and the space for us to run the program. So in January 2008, we brought our first 6 dogs into the program after screening approximately 70 dogs by looking at them on the Internet, and then physically looking at 58 dogs, sending 34 of those 58 for health screens, including hip x-rays, and then selecting the first 6 for the program.
Wow, that must be very challenging. You'd want to select all the dogs.
Well, we have some strong criteria. You know, we use all rescue dogs, so it's 100% rescue. So first and foremost, you know, we're looking at the size of the dog. If you're talking a 6-foot-something veteran, 250 to 300 pounds, and the dog is going to help them with mobility, but also with some other things, you've got to have a pretty good-sized dog to support them. So that's first and foremost. Second, we look at their temperament. We do a test. It's about a 15-point test. You know, does the dog show the aptitude and the desire to want to work and please a human? Pretty simple. Once that happens, then you're going through the physical and the health. Is it heartworm negative? Because we don't want a dog that's heartworm positive or has been treated for heartworm because it compromises the heart. And a service dog's job can be stressful at times. So you don't want to add that health issue in there. And then we have the hips x-ray to make sure they're sound. So yes, you want to take them all, but you're sort of already screening out, you know, the little 10 and 20 and 40-pound dogs. So by process of what our program is, it narrows down the selection pool of dogs.
Do they also have to be fairly young, or is there a certain age that is a cutoff?
We're targeting dogs that are between 1 to 2 years of age. Mm-hmm. And the reason we do that is it takes us about 1 year to train a dog. The quickest time we've turned a dog around is 9 months. The longest period of time is 14 months. So if you take a dog much older than that, say a 3 or 4-year-old dog, you put them in the program and you train for a year, then they're 4 to 5 years old. The actual working life expectancy for that dog is maybe only 3 to 4 years with the client. So if you take a dog that's 1 to 2, they're being placed when they're 2 to 3 years old. You're going to hopefully they're going to work until they're probably 8, 9, 10, or 11 years old. So you're going to get a longer period of time the dog is going to be physically capable of working for the person that you're placing it with.
And what does the training involve? Are they spending every day being trained with a prisoner, or is it once a week? How does that work?
That's unique to our program. We are in the prison full-time with the prisoners. When we bring a dog in, the prisoner will have already passed the pre-qualifications to become a service dog handler or a trainee. And they're assigned a dog, and they are responsible for that dog 24/7. If 2 o'clock in the morning the dog has to go out and go potty, they have to call the guard. They have to, get their gear on, and they're required to take that dog out for the potty call. They're required to feed it, groom it, love it, train it, everything it's going to take to get that dog ready to serve a veteran. And we have a staff member that's in the prison Monday through Friday, anywhere between 6 to 8 hours, and as needed otherwise. If a dog needs to be, brought out to be taken to the vet or something goes on and she needs to get in there, then she has access to do that.
And what are the benefits to the prisoner to be a service dog handler?
Well, when we first started the program, we thought, this is great. We're going to use rescue dogs, and we're going to provide highly skilled service dog to veterans. We thought that was great. We missed completely for the first 6 months that middle component, which was the prisoner. Military prison is unlike civilian prison. In military prison, there is no touch. They can't walk up to their cellmate and pat them on the back. They can't shake hands with somebody who's coming in the door to visit them. There's absolutely no physical contact. They also don't have all the little extras. While they get a stipend per month, their stipend is only to buy underwear, shaving cream, and that sort of deodorant. They don't have the opportunity to have candy bars or cigarettes or all that kind of stuff. So for us to bring a throwaway dog from the shelter in to a prison where the guys have done wrong, and give them the opportunity to be responsible for something, to learn a skill, to give back to their comrades, it just opens up a whole different avenue for them while they're behind the walls of the prison. since we started the program, in 2011, we actually were able to have the program certified by the United States Department of Labor as an apprenticeship program. So our guys who successfully complete the training course, which is 3,600 hours of training, can walk out of prison with a certificate of apprenticeship in service dog technician, unique in the country. We're the only ones.
That's great. So when they walk out with that, how does that help them?
For the prisoners that have been in contact with us after their release, we know several of them are working in pet-related industry. One went to grooming school and became a groomer. The other is a manager at a very well-known pet retail store. Another one is just enrolled himself in veterinary technician to go to school. Several of them are working as freelance service dog trainers, like on a contractor basis for other organizations.
So it really is a win-win-win situation. What are some of the things that the dogs help a veteran do?
The dogs are trained in 90 commands that can help a veteran, anything from retrieving a dropped item to opening a door, to loading and unloading a washing machine, turning on and off lights, very important for...
They can load a washing machine?
They can load a washing machine.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we don't trade spouses or significant others. And we don't teach teenagers how to do that, in case anybody wants to know. The answer is no. But, yeah, so they're taught skills that a person either with a physical disability or our veterans dealing with the post-traumatic stress need to be able to function and regain their independence. So for PTSD, we'll teach the dogs to basically cover them. So what does that mean? It means that when you go to check out or you're going to the bank counter to make a deposit, the dog is taught to come around the person and face outward. So basically the dog has the individual's back. If someone starts to approach, the dog stands up to alert the person. Because having their back exposed is one of the issues with those with PTSD. Many of them are on a lot of medications to help them sleep. The dogs are taught to wake them up. Through the process of our application, we're asking our applicants, which are our future clients, what do you use for your alarm clock? Well, first of all, do you have problems waking up in the morning? Yes. What do you use for your alarm clock? Is it your cell phone? Is it something else? We want to know the ringtone because we'll train that dog specifically to that ringtone to help wake that person up. So how does that happen? Well, we've all been there where we have the mornings where we just don't want to get our behinds out of bed. So first, the alarm goes off, you shut it off, the dog may not do anything. Second time the alarm goes off, the dog will go over and start to tug from the bottom of the bed to remove the blanket. If that doesn't work, the next time the alarm goes off, they'll remove the sheet.
That's a nice wake-up call.
Well, the last and final thing is they pull the pillow out from underneath the head. So it's kind of, it's progressive to get the person to kind of, come on, you're supposed to be out of this bed now.
Well, that's great, especially for someone who maybe doesn't want to face the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's very encouraging and inspiring to have a little fur critter there, encouraging you to get up.
Mm-hmm. But it helps them to, stay on schedule, engage in life. Can't sleep your whole day away. You have this four-legged, thing by your side that you have to take care of. The other thing they're helping our veterans with is what we're starting to learn from some of our prisoners that also have PTSD is dream interruption. So many of them experience nightmares or night terrors. So the fact that the dog can be there, we encourage our clients to have the dog sleep with them so that the dog can wake them up during a dream. And they'll do that in a number of manners. They can just be so persistent that the dog keeps telling them they have to go out and go potty or something, but the dog goes outside and is looking at the stars and the moon and really didn't have to go. So they'll use different techniques to kind of get rouse the person out from where they are.
Now, there's a training period also for the new owner as well, right? The veteran who receives the dog. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Yes, there is. Another thing unique to our organization, we call it team training when our veteran goes into, we operate this program out of Charleston, South Carolina now, out of the Naval Station break. So we bring the veteran and his caregiver into Charleston, South Carolina. They're put up in a hotel. We'll spend about 7 days with them. They'll come in on a Sunday afternoon. We'll do introduction. They'll get to meet their service dog because it really helps them to kind of take the edge off if they've met the dog that they're going to be receiving. And then starting Monday morning, they're in the break at the crack of dawn, and the prison handler who has trained the dog will start to work with the recipient of the dog to teach them the basics. Our team is there at the same time talking to the caregiver, explaining what's going on, why the dog is trained this way, why that skill is going to help their loved one, and what they can do to help or what they should not do to help. And so they'll spend a very intense week with our team, both in the brig and in the community, because we take them on community outings. They go to lunches, they go to dinners, they go to the mall. Being that we're in a very historic town, usually the last outing is a horse-drawn carriage tour of Charleston. So just trying to get them exposed to different scenarios, different places. We're really pushing their limits of their comfort level because the whole purpose of a service dog is supposed to re-engage them in society and get them out in the community. And then we, give them the dog and send them home.
Pat, we have Lindsay Holt, the director of Devil Dogs, with us today, and I know that he has some questions for you as well.
Okay, great.
Hi, Pat.
Hey, Lindsay.
Hi. I'm kind of interested in the prisoners. I just have a couple of questions that came into my mind as someone who's owned dogs for many years of my life. And it seems to me the prisoners must get pretty attached to these dogs because they go through a rather lengthy training period with them. And so the questions that come up in my mind is, first of all, how do they handle that transition when they finally have to give up the dog that they've spent a lot of time and energy training? And also, I think the bigger question for me was, is there ever any opportunity for the client who then receives the dog to perhaps occasionally come back? Have you ever seen where they come back and visit with the prisoner who trained the dog again? Is that something that happens?
Well, to address your first question about, how does the prisoner handle giving up the dog, it's not easy. This is the first living, breathing thing that the prisoner has had physical contact with, being able to pet, to brush, to hug, to love. So for the prisoner, it is a very emotional time. We do give the prisoner the opportunity, of course, to meet the client because the prisoner who's trained the dog is part of the training for the client, the veteran receiving the dog. But we also give them some time to say goodbye to the dog. And they know in advance who's getting the dog. They've been part of they haven't reviewed the person's application, but they review parts of it to understand what the individual needs are and kind of get to know the person on paper and via a brief video before they ever meet them in person. Mm-hmm. And then they get to see that transition when the light bulb goes on for the dog and the dog realizes the handler that they worked with for the last 12 months is not their person. Like the dog gets it, and usually about day 2 to 3 of training, the dog almost stops listening to the prisoner and only is taking direction from their veteran. So it is a progression. It is difficult for them. We make sure that photographs are taken so that the prisoner has the opportunity to have a remembrance photograph of themselves and the dog that they trained. If their sentence is long enough, they get the opportunity to train another dog and start the process again. There have been a few of our clients who have come back into the program. We offer all of our clients the opportunity for, if their needs change, if they need retraining, they can come back to us. So it may be in a very abbreviated, but a couple of days. And for some of our prisoners, they've then been able to work with the dog and the veteran who received the dog again. So they see how much the dog has helped. We'll also let our clients write to us in a very anonymous way about how the dog is helping them, and then we'll provide that through the powers that be at the brig for approval. And if the brig approves it, then that can be provided to the prisoner.
Great. That's wonderful that there is those avenues for some kind of continuance of the relationship, I think. It seems important.
It is important. I really think it is. It's important for the prisoners because they need to know that the work they're doing has value and is worthy of their time and their work. And it's important for the veterans receiving the dogs. Oftentimes, the military prisoners are certainly not considered in a very positive light because they've violated their military code of ethics in some way to end up in a bad situation that they're in. So for the veteran to then see sort of the gift that the prisoner is giving back to try to make amends for the wrong that they did, I think it helps to kind of settle the viewpoint of military prisoners.
Pat, can you talk about the ways that Canines for Veterans is different from some other organizations that provide service dogs?
I sure will. Canines for Veterans is different on several levels. First and foremost, we use all rescue dogs. 100% of our program is rescue and shelter dogs. We do not have a breeding program. The vast majority of service dog organizations have breeding programs. So our feeling is there's so many great dogs. There's so many great dogs that are euthanized every year. Why not tap this resource and give the dogs another chance at a second opportunity? Canines for Veterans, or Canines for Service, the parent organization, is also an accredited service dog organization. Well, so what does that mean? It means that by a kind of a committee of our peers, our processes and procedures from training the dogs, caring for the dogs, interactions with our clients, how we communicate with our clients, how we take their application, all of that has been reviewed by a team of national service dog providers that have set standards in the industry. And Canines for Service, parent organization of Canines for Veterans, is one of only 57 accredited service dog providers in the United States. Not very many. Third thing we do is we're in a prison full-time. We're the only program in a military prison full-time. There are a number of service dog programs that work in civilian prisons, but we are the only full-time service dog training program in a military prison. We are also the only service dog training program in a prison environment that can provide a U.S. Department of Labor certificate of apprenticeship for the individuals who have successfully completed the curriculum. And that helps them when they get released from prison, because 98% of the prisoners we work with will be released. And lastly, I think one of the big differences, we do our team training individualized. So that means that we only bring one veteran in at a time, and we work with one veteran, their service dog, and bring their caregiver in with them. So it's a very one-on-one experience, so that if that veteran who has post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury that's affecting their cognitive function, if they have to ask the same question 20 times, our team doesn't care. And the person doesn't have to be embarrassed to be asking that question over and over again. So I think those are the points that really set us aside from a lot of other organizations.
And you do all of this at no cost to the recipient.
All of this is no cost to the recipient. They are not charged a fee. Our veterans do not pay even an application fee. So it's all the time to receive their application, review it, process it, have it reviewed by a committee to make sure, one, can we serve this individual, and then what are the needs of this individual, what type of dog are they going to need. From housing them when they come down from teen training to getting them to Charleston, South Carolina, from anywhere in the country. We do work with other partner organizations to help us do that, such as Air Compassion for Veterans. We have some generous hotels in the Charleston community that house our veteran and their caregiver for the week they're for training. We provide them the dog, all of the equipment for the dog. If they need a specialized harness, that's made for them. Fit it to the individual based on the dog's height, the person's height, so that it's comfortable for them and we're not going to cause some other physical issues with an inappropriate fit. We provide for all their meals, and if they're flown into Charleston, like currently we have a veteran that's a lieutenant colonel from the Air Force. He lives in New Mexico, and the order has already been placed online for his products for his dog to be shipped to his home. So by the time he arrives home, he'll have a month's supply of dog food, a container for it, treats, toys for the dog, all the necessary things he needs to be able to start to care for his dog once he gets home to work with it.
Oh, good. The dog gets toys. It doesn't have to work 24/7.
The dogs don't work 24/7. That's a great point, Laura, because people do have this misconception, oh, this poor dog is working all the time. They're not. You know, when they get home, the vest is off, the leash is off, you know, they have playtime, they can run in the yard. If the person doesn't have a fenced yard, we encourage them to find an enclosed field where they can play ball with the dog. You know, it's downtime, it's fun time, it's rest time. But if the person needs them to do something, the dog should be responding to the commands.
And dogs love to have a job, right? It gives them a sense of purpose.
They love it. They love it. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a good percentage of dogs that just want to be the couch potato. I have a few of my own personal ones like that. But for the most part, these dogs love to work. They're happy to work. They're given a purpose. All of our training methodology is positive reward. So what does I mean by that? Some people call it balanced training. Some people call it positive training. What it really means is for us is we don't use chokes, chains, prongs, or electronics. So they're motivated through praise, through treats, and through toys to do the work that we're asking them to do. And at the same time, if we find a dog that we've had them in the program for several weeks and they're just not cut out for this, we'll make the difficult decision, we'll release them from our program, and we'll work to find them an adoptive home so they can be happy just being that couch potato rather than a work dog.
That's great. Pat, can you share some success stories with us?
Probably some of my I'll go to a couple of my fairly recent ones. Well, actually, it is and it isn't. One of our clients, he's had his dog since January 2009, so here we are at the 5-year mark. And And last year he came to us, he and his wife came down to visit us, and they're sitting there and he's going, this darn dog, he's waking me up at 2 o'clock in the morning all the time. I take him outside, and all he's doing is sitting out there looking at the sky. We start asking questions. And we said to him, your dog's not messing with you. Your dog is alerting you because you are starting to have nightmares again. And it prompted, because of what the dog was doing, and because our veteran told us what the dog was doing, and we were able to ask a line of questions, he was able to go back and seek help that he needed because he was having a reoccurrence of some of his PTSD symptoms, and he hadn't even realized it.
Wow, how did the dog realize it?
We don't know. It's something about that human-animal bond that it goes beyond explanation. Another one is more recent. The client got home with his dog. This individual has not slept in his bed in his home for 10 years. He has always slept on the sofa, and he's only slept for a couple hours each night. His greatest fear, because he had small children, his greatest fear is that he would wake from a night terror and cause injury or harm to his own child. Emotional? Yes. 2 nights after they arrived home, he slept in his own bed for 4 hours, and when his little 3-year-old came into the room, his service dog woke him up. So he didn't wake with a startle. It knew it was his child. So the dog is helping kind of that family interaction as well. Mm-hmm. One of those side benefits. And then recently, our client that just returned home a couple of weeks ago, for the first time in years, he went to the pumpkin patch with his wife and his children. Now, he didn't stay out there in the field with the kids and the family the whole time, but because he had his service dog by his side, he felt like he could venture out with his family and start to get back into society and start to reintegrate into family time and having quality time. Because he was less anxious, he didn't feel threatened because of the commands the dog can do to make him feel protected. So there again, having not only the impact on the individual, but the impact on the family.
Those are great success stories. Pat, how can a veteran apply to receive a dog?
A veteran can apply either by calling our office, and I can give that number, 910-362-8181, or visiting our website, caninesforservice.org, all spelled out. Our applications are right on our website. They can click on our veterans page and review information there as well. They can call and talk to us and ask us any questions they may have, and we'll kind of talk them through the process. The whole process of receiving a service dog starts with the application. It enables us to determine whether we can serve them and how we can serve them best. Once that process happens, they'll get notified if they're approved for a dog, and they're placed on our wait list. Our wait list currently for our veterans is about 12 months. And while that sounds like a long time for the individual waiting, it's one of the shortest times in industry. From veterans who are calling us, we're hearing that they're being told 2 to 5 years by other organizations. So
significantly less.
Significantly less. So the whole process starts with the application. And our team is here to help them and talk with them, answer questions, guide them through that process.
Great.
Pat, I have a couple of questions really about your organization in itself. It seems to me, just from hearing, that you must have a pretty incredible staff. I don't know how many individuals you have, but they all must be people who not only love dogs, but they have such a great perhaps some training themselves in some of these areas that are necessary to do their job. Could you talk about your staff and the wonderful people that you have working for you?
I sure will, Lindsay. Thank you for asking. I always like to tell people we have a small but mighty team. Believe it or not, we are staffed by 4 full-time people and 2 part-time.
Wow.
Yeah. And every one of our jobs is multifaceted. This morning I was writing grants. Tonight I'm speaking with you. On another evening I may be teaching a class for another aspect of our program. Our corporate office based here in Wilmington, North Carolina, basically all the calls funnel through there. 1 of 2 of our office people generally handle those calls. And then we have a full-time trainer down in Charleston, South Carolina. She goes into the brig on a regular basis. She's the one instructing the prisoners, working with our clients, our veterans when they receive the dogs, as well as scouting for dogs when we need dogs, and doing a few presentations. We tend to limit her time about doing presentations. And then, of course, there's our program founder, president, CEO, and he's hands-on training. He could be working and training a dog. He works with the team training as well. He's one of the second part of our team that does the team training. So that's really the core group of trainers and staff that run the programs. That being said, we try to be as responsive as we can to phone calls and emails that come in. We spend a lot of time doing communications, public relations. I'm the primary reference for the new applicants coming in. So when a veteran applies to a dog, the application hits my desk. I do an initial review. If all the components are there, we send out for the personal reference letters. I make sure all the pieces are together. I get that to our review committee so we can get a review done on that application and get an answer to that veteran as soon as possible.
Okay, let me ask you a couple of questions about your funding. Would that be all right?
That's perfectly all right. Let me tell you one more thing about our staff.
Please, yeah.
Our staff are all about heart. And I don't know how else to explain it. Every one of our staff have been touched by the fact that when they've met an individual that we've served, their life has been changed in some way. And yes, you can hear emotion in my voice. It's not just about a dog, a 4-legged animal, and a person. It's about the difference that we know as individuals we each can have on someone's life.
It's profound, isn't it?
It's very profound.
Something that I think changes your life and stays with you for the rest of your life. You'll never forget it, And I'm sure that the recipients, the clients, obviously they have the same feeling, maybe even deeper. And I believe the prisoners probably feel that way too. And I would suspect, in my intuition, that, this is something that really makes a difference, not only for the clients, but for those prisoners as well,
It does because, we've asked some of them to give us feedback, and they basically said that they virtually found their life and found a purpose by having been a part of the service dog training program and never realized that they had such a love for animals.
This falls under a category, if you will, of nurturing. And I remember a gentleman once said to me that whatever is nurturing to us is what connects us back to our core. And so it's a double meaning there, the core being the Marine Corps or the Army Corps or any of those corps of our military service organizations, but also the spiritual core. And I think that everything that you all are about really helps connect everyone back to a core of nurturing that is essential for all of us as human beings to just exist, And so it's such a wonderful thing. But moving on to the funding, I was curious, where do most of the funds come from for your organization?
Most of the funds come from private donations. from grant writing, although grant writing the last year and a half has been greatly diminished. The writing is being done, but the awards have been greatly diminished. Or fundraisers. And fundraisers could be fundraisers that we run ourselves. We don't pay professional fundraisers, so it's our staff and our volunteers doing it. Or partnerships like with Devil Dogs. Organizations who realize that we're trying to do good work, who step up and say they want to come beside us. And our funding is about equally split, a third individual or corporate donations, a third grants, a third fundraising.
And what are some of the things that you can identify, if I could put it this way, on your wish list that Canines for Veterans and Canines for Service Dogs would really like to have, that maybe people who are out there listening right now, that might be a corporate CEO or it might be a private individual out there, could say, gee, I'd really like to get behind that. Are there things that you identified that you could really use?
It's everyday things. It's from the food for the dogs, which is all paid for out of our budget, to helping to pay for veterinary care, to helping to fund the meals for the veterans so they don't have out-of-pocket expenses. It's just really the day-to-day things that are all the little kind of foundational pieces to make this organization run and to be able to provide the service, train the service dogs, select them, train them, and provide them to our veterans. And it sounds like a done answer, but it takes so much grease to keep the wheels running that it really does come down to it. May not be things, but it's the money to purchase those things. What many people don't realize is, nonprofits are businesses like anybody else. I mean, we have liability insurance. We have workman's compensation insurance. All of those are costs that go into the cost of what it takes to train a service dog for someone.
We learned that making a film as well.
Yeah. The little things that you don't think of. You have to put gas in the car. Darn these dogs, they want to eat every day.
And what about your following, Pat? We've been told that you have a pretty good following with Facebook and other organizations. Could you talk about the vast following that you have out there?
I've been amazed at that myself, Lindsay. Our following is not just regional. It's not just local. It's regional. It's national. And believe it or not, it's international. I am amazed at the number of people outside of the United States that are fans on our Facebook page or our Twitter page and comment and share information. From as simple as, we post a new black lab mix that we rescued to bring into the program, and we get 100 and some comments from other people who love black labs, and they're posting and sharing pictures of their own rescue dog with us, which is kind of cool. So the following is growing. It may be not as strong as we'd like it to be in some respects, but the social media has really launched us into some things that we never thought. We received significant funding from a large national funder because of Facebook, because of a Facebook campaign. And they funded the cost of training 5 service dogs in 2012. Because of
That's fascinating.
That is fascinating. Because of our Facebook following, we actually won a Toyota Sienna fully accessible van, so that for our clients in wheelchairs, we have a way to transport them that we never had before. And we did that in 2011. So the Facebook presence and the social media presence has truly given us a push into regions that we may never have been able to touch. And because we serve our veterans on a national basis, it's also been able to connect veterans who may not have found us before.
Pat, I'm very pleased today to speak with you, and one of the reasons why I've worked really hard on a particular song that is in the soundtrack of the film, Laura and I are getting ready to embark on a crowdfunding campaign for the film, and the portion of the proceeds that goes to your organization from that is, of course, already committed. But in addition to that, I want to commit myself today to donating 100% of all of any revenue that will come in eventually from the digital download of the song to Canines for Veterans.
Oh, Lindsay, that is just incredible. I can't wait to hear the music and be able to share the song so our people can really see what it means to have a group like Devil Dogs come beside us and stand with us to serve our veterans. We're thrilled.
We're thrilled as well, Pat. We really are. We've been looking for something to make a difference, and we found it when we found you all.
I know that you have a long-term vision for Canines for Veterans and Canines for Service. Would you share that with us, what your long-term vision is?
We do. Really, the long-term vision is our veterans' needs are not ending. Because we've come out of Iraq or come out of Afghanistan and whatever else is going on in the world right now, their needs are not stopping. And we, as a community, need to stand with our veterans to provide them the services that they need. Our program right now is relatively small. We're placing about 10 dogs a year. But we see a vision where we can take that program and using the model that we have that is successful and grow it. And grow it by having a facility that's outside of the brig that can kennel and house dogs, that we can utilize the prisoners once they're released and hire them into the employment community and give them a purpose to continue to train dogs and to teach others to train service dogs in a quality manner in a vocational training school. It will help increase the number of service dogs that are able to be provided to veterans. It will help to further define the standards of training for not only the service dogs, but for the trainers who are training the service dogs. And in the end result, help more, save more rescue and shelter dogs, which really saves another life. The moment we pull a dog from the shelter, it frees up the space in the shelter for another dog to go in rather than be euthanized. And it's going to give back to our veterans and give them the independence that they need. That's been taken away from them for whatever reason because they proudly served our country and defended our freedoms. Freedom to let Canines for Veterans do the work we're doing and let you, Laura, and you, Lindsay, do the work that you're doing. So we do have a bigger vision.
Such a wonderful and important, necessary, valuable organization. Thank you so much for your time today, Pat, for sharing with us. We can't thank you enough.
Thank you. We're thrilled to be a part of this, and I'm glad I could talk with both you, Laura, and you, Lindsay. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. God bless you.
You too. God bless.